Welcome back, everybody. This is the first video in our 6-part series on the Keto Reboot, or if you're just starting keto for the first time. So stay tuned. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to the Messy Keto Kitchen, where my floors are almost always dirty. My name is Steffi, and if you're just joining us for the first time, go ahead and hit subscribe below. Also, make sure you hit notifications so you can see all of my crazy videos, especially within this series. Today, we're going to be talking about a lot of different things, so bear with me. It's a little bit of a longer video, but my goal with this video today is to get you started on the ketogenic diet or rebooted on the ketogenic diet, following every little detail that you need to be successful, okay? This is what I did to lose my first 25 pounds. If you have questions along the way, please don't hesitate to ask. I have the comment section open below. You can also join me on Facebook at The Messy Kitchen, or you can join me on Instagram at StephBelly_loves-to-lift. I am more than excited to answer your questions. But let's go ahead and get started. We have 4 topics today. We're going to talk about macros and properly tracking your foods. We're going to talk about setting SMART goals. We're going to take some measurements, which I know isn't fun, but we're going to get through it and move on. And then we're going to talk about the basic groceries that you're going to need to get started. So stick with us, sit back, invite a friend, and we'll see you here in just a moment. All right, so now it's time to talk about goals. And goal setting is probably one of the most important things that you can do. And I think a lot of times it's something that we kind of sweep under the rug, or we have kind of a vague idea of what we want in our minds. And so without being very specific with our goals, it's really, really easy to fall off track or just to lose track of exactly where we're going. So for those of you who haven't heard of SMART goals, which I'm sure most people at this point in their life have, but if you haven't, a SMART goal is actually an acronym, and it stands for specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, and time-bound. And so to put that into perspective and what it means for a weight loss journey, or whatever you want to call it, is that we have to follow a SMART goal system in order to make sure that we're actually going to get the best results. This is just my opinion. It's what's worked for me. Results may vary, I guess. So the first part, being specific. Okay, so you can't just go, I want to lose weight. That's a goal, but it's not really specific. How much weight are you wanting to lose? And so what I like to do is set a short-term SMART goal. Okay, so we're gonna do a short-term specific goal. So for example, I don't know if you can see on my calendar here, it's kind of hard. Let's see if we can zoom in a little bit. Probably not. That's okay. On my calendar, it says that I am going to lose 10 pounds. That's very specific. It's a very specific amount of weight. Okay, the next part is measurable. How do I measure this goal? Well, that one's a pretty easy one. I can measure that on this scale. Okay, but it has to be measurable. Don't make it something vague like, I want to be happy, because how do you measure happiness? Make sure that it's something that can be measurable. Obviously, weight loss is pretty measurable. There you go. Actionable means there has to be action behind it. It can't just be a goal and not have a way to get to the goal. So in this instance, our actionable way of doing this is going to be, I'm going to follow the Keto Reboot for the 3 weeks. And that's how I'm going to lose the first 6 pounds or whatever it is. But that's what your action is going to be. Or it could be something along the lines of, I'm going to make sure that I meal prep every Sunday in order to hit my goal, etc. You get the point. Realistic, saying that you're going to lose 100 pounds in 1 week is not realistic. I'm sure somebody somewhere out there in some tabloid magazine has a story where that's happened. However, in real life, it is not realistic, and that is setting yourself up for a bad disappointment, and that's when we all go running for the Cheetos. So make sure your goals are realistic. The average weight loss on a healthy weight loss plan is approximately 2 pounds per week. I can tell you on a ketogenic diet, the first week especially, even on any diet, but especially a ketogenic diet, the first week you lose a lot. I believe my first week I lost 7 pounds. Almost all of that is water weight. It's nice to see that big movement on the scale and it keeps you motivated, but every week thereafter is a little bit different. You're rarely gonna see those kind of big swings. So what I would say is realistically average it out. So average out the 2 pounds per week. If it's more than that, awesome, we're having a party. but let's not go out of control, because otherwise, again, we set ourselves up for disappointment. We get bummed out that we must be doing something wrong because we didn't lose 50 pounds like that person you saw on Instagram. And again, back to the Cheetos. And the last part is the T, which is for time bound. Time bound obviously would mean that on my goal board here, I have set up that I am going to lose 10 pounds and I'm going to do it within 5 weeks. I have it all logged onto my board, and I will get a zoom up on that in just a moment for everybody. But I put it as a 5-week goal because I'm doing the average of 2 pounds per week. Again, if I beat my goal, that's awesome, but I know what to expect and I know how to keep myself on track, and I'm going to track my goals every single day. So we're going to take a quick pause. Let me pause. Okay, and we're back to this, and I'm going to show you here. You can see that I have it set up on a weekly basis. So the first one is lose 3 pounds from the starting weight, lose 5 pounds from start weight, 7, 9, 10, etc. And again, I just went with the average. 1 week I called for a 2-pound loss, but this one is only a 1-pound loss. And I even start off with my first day of Keto Reboot, assuming that we all start on the last day of the year, whatever it is we're going to do. And then down here, I also have my main goals: lose 10 pounds, lose 6 inches, and I will add more actions to those. So now you know how to set SMART goals. It is super important, guys. I would add in some goals about measurements, whatever it is. Maybe you're going to eat. Make sure you make fat bombs every single day. That's one of your goals. Whatever it is, make sure you put pen to paper, because if you don't write it down, I promise you it's a rarity that it actually ever comes to fruition. So moving on to our next step. All right, this topic is going to be about macro calculation. And so what macros are, for those of you who don't know, and that's okay if you don't, because not everybody does, and that's cool too. Your macros are short for macronutrients, and your macronutrients are carbs, protein, and fats. On a ketogenic diet, the goal is to get higher amounts of fat than anything else. And this is very contrary to what we've been taught for the majority of our lives. It is going to take you a mental struggle to remember to get more fat and to not try to cut back on it. And I can tell you, all the way through probably my first 3 months, even though I knew I was supposed to be getting more fat, there was something in the back of my head that said, okay, well, maybe just kind of cut back on the fat a little bit and just be a little bit more cautious with it. And I can tell you that does not yield the greatest results, especially on keto. The baseline for keto macronutrients is that you're going to get 70% of your calories from fat, that you're going to get 25% of your calories from protein, and then the other 5% are going to be from your carbohydrates. And most of your carbohydrates are going to be like trace carbohydrates, maybe in like your vegetables, stuff like that. But overall, the goal is to keep your carbohydrates to 20 grams or less per day. For me personally, after all these all these months of doing keto, I have found that my body actually operates much better at the 75 to 80% fat range. Now, for somebody first starting out, it's already going to be a little bit intimidating starting out at 70% fat, but I can tell you I saw the best results when I was at 75 to 80 pretty consistently. I was more satiated, I had way more energy, and the weight just came off much more quickly. So that's up to you. Now, in order to calculate your macros, there are literally thousands of macro calculators on the internet. You can be as simple as going onto MyFitnessPal and putting in a macro calculation, but I'm going to tell you, if you do it on MyFitnessPal, it's going to automatically calculate your carbohydrates to be very, very high, your protein to be pretty high as well, and your fats to be pretty low. If you have MyFitnessPal Premium, you can adjust. I think you have to have the Premium. I'm not positive. I know I do, but let me know if I'm wrong on this one. But you can adjust your macronutrients to be a customized macronutrient. So you could say 75% of my calories I want to come from fat, 20% from my protein, and 5% or less from my carbohydrates. Now, what we're looking for in a macro calculator though is we're looking to see what our baseline calories are supposed to be for weight loss. I would suggest going to a website, and I can't off the top of my head, I couldn't even list one for you. I feel terrible, but I promise you if you do a Google search, you will find one immediately. Just type in to Google Keto Macros Calculator, and like I said, thousands of things will pop up. type your statistics in there. It's going to ask you for your height, your current weight, and it's going to give you a baseline of what it thinks your daily calories are going to be. From there, that's where we're going to find out how many grams of fat you want to get per day, or how many grams of we know carbohydrates, less than 20 grams, how many grams of protein, etc. Like I said, it is going to be a bit tricky at first because you are not used to eating that much fat, but that's why I'm creating these videos, because I'm going to show you the ways to get 70 to 80% of your calories from fat and to make it very easy for you to do, and then you will see the results. The fat is going to make you feel much more satiated. You'll feel fuller longer, which means you're not going to want to eat as often as you did before. You're going to notice, obviously, fat has more calories per gram than any of the other macronutrients. So at first you might be thinking, oh man, I'm eating a lot less, like as far as size of meals, but the calories are a lot higher. But again, the fat is going to keep you so full, you won't even really notice the difference. It's going to be a mind over matter kind of instance. So as far as tracking your macros goes, and you want to track, I promise you don't have to do this for the rest of your life, but especially during this reboot and until you get to the point where your body and your brain are working together and they fully understand how much fat is in everything, how many calories, etc., please track. It's going to be the difference between a successful reboot or a start and wondering why it's not working, okay? So I started out using MyFitnessPal. I really like MyFitnessPal. It's very easy to use. It has like every food imaginable in it. However, MyFitnessPal does not cover net carbs. And so to explain that, net carbs are the total amount of carbs after you subtract out any sugar alcohols, and we'll get into sugar alcohols in a whole other video, but after you subtract out sugar alcohols and fiber. So for example, if something has 10 grams of carbohydrates, but it's got 5 grams of fiber, you subtract the 5 from the 10, and you have 5 grams of net carbohydrates, okay? MyFitnessPal will not calculate that for you, so you would have to do the math yourself, not that that's that hard. But there's another program, actually there's more than one, but the one I can recommend is a program called Carb Manager. And Carb Manager is almost as good as MyFitnessPal. It has a big database. You can scan your foods into there as well. And that one will factor in your net carbs for you. So make sure today your mission is also to find your macronutrient ratio, find out how many calories you're going to be needing and what that relates to in fat, carbohydrates. Again, I don't know why I keep saying carbohydrates. 20 grams or less, guys. Just remember, 20 grams or less. But find out what your fat and your protein macronutrient ratio is supposed to be. And then also decide if you're going to use MyFitnessPal or the Carb Manager, or maybe the both of them together. It's just dependent on what's your comfort level. And we're going to go from there. You're going to find that tracking things at first is a little bit tedious, but after a while you get so used to it. And of course these programs, after you do it a couple of times, you enter the same thing a couple of times, it remembers it and it says, oh, is this what you wanted to enter? If you're eating the same thing every day or you had the same thing for breakfast, it's going to auto-populate for you. So it makes it a lot easier. But please, guys, I cannot stress the importance enough of tracking. I know it's not fun. I'm somebody who doesn't like to be as structured in certain things. I don't like to be told how much I can eat. But the reality is, the reason I got to be 242 pounds is because I had no structure. So the structure is going to help you. If you have questions about how to use the program or other programs that might be out there, please make sure to comment below and I will help you out with that. And we're going to move on to our last topic. All right, the most dreaded subject is getting on the scale, but it has to be done, guys. It has to be done. So here's your mission. You're going to get on the scale. You're going to look at the number. You're not going to beat yourself up over it. You're going to smile, breathe in a deep breath, and then remember that you're doing something to work on that number, okay? Scale weight fluctuates from day to day. Don't get too absorbed into what it all means and so on, because I can tell you it'll go up, it's going to go down. It is a small measurement as to your actual progress, which is why I highly encourage you to take measurements. When it comes to measurements, obviously there are several different measurements you can take. I always recommend the 3 absolute measurements that you should take. First, start at your rib cage. I had to stand on my tippy toes because I don't have my high heels on. So do your rib cage all the way around. That's unfortunately where most of our back fat is in. So that one's where you're gonna see a lot of movement. The next one is your true waistline. So if you were to put your hands on your waist where the indentation is, take your measurement there. It should be right above or right at your natural belly button line, like you have a fake belly button, I don't know. And then the next one is going to be at your hips. So go across your hip bones and make sure it should go across your little belly. In my case, it's a little bit bigger sometimes than others, but go ahead and take those 3 measurements minimum. I really encourage people to take even measurements of your bicep, measurement of your thigh, etc., just to really get an overall picture, because there are some weeks where your waistline doesn't move, but you lose an inch on your thighs. So I think that measurements, like I said, tell a much truer story than the scale does. And because, like I said, weight fluctuations can be all over the place, the measurements that you take will be more consistent than the scale. And really, if we get down to it, nobody's gonna look at you and say, oh, I know that that person weighs X amount of weight. Wait, yeah, that sounds right. They're not gonna look at you and see that, but they can see when your body is getting smaller or, more tucked in or whatever. So don't focus so much on the weight. Again, it's a metric. That's great. It is not the end all. And one of the most important things I tell people, and again, people fight me on this, take pictures. You will be so surprised at when you do a side-by-side comparison of before and after, how much differently your body looks. And it is so cool to be able to see that. There are times when our eyes play tricks on us, our brain plays tricks on us, and we can't see any of the progress that we're making. And then you look at a picture of what you were at before compared to where you're at now, and you can see those differences. So those are the things you're going to be doing today, hopefully, or whatever the first day of your, when you're starting this reboot. I always recommend to do it the first day or like the day before you're starting your new plan. That way, the number's fresh in your mind, but also you're doing something about it and you're not stressing for 3 weeks that you've gained 20 pounds and is life over or whatever. So you're doing something about it, you're moving forward, bada bing, bada boom. Okay, let's move on. I know that this video is kind of long and that's not my intention, but my theory behind this is that if I give you as many tools early on, that let's say you want to start today, you can start today and you know what you need to get started. Or if you're somebody who needs a little bit more of wiggle room and you're like, okay, I want to start at the beginning of the year, next Monday, whatever it is, you have enough of a basis and time to prepare for all of these things without feeling like you're having to wait on something else. So that's the reason I'm putting so much information into one video. Obviously, the videos that follow will have a little bit less information, more streamlined, but will also keep you on track and keep you going on the plan. Okay, so this last part is about groceries. And there are some bare minimum things that I believe you need to have in your fridge to get started properly on keto. There's a lot of, I would call these like different tiers. So there's like tier 1, the have to haves. Like, I don't think you can make it through keto without it. Now, this is just my experience. Everybody does keto differently. You're gonna hear people out there that are gonna be like, that's not keto, or that's, I don't know. People are really weird with this. Do what works for you. I'm just telling you what worked for me, and hopefully it will do the same for you, okay? So tier 1 would be the have to have things, like you're not gonna survive without it maybe. Tier 2 is the, I really like to have these, I use these pretty regularly. And tier 3 is gonna be things that are, it's the nice to have. It's, it can't hurt to have it in your pantry. That being said, unless you're balling, which I'm not, I don't have a ton of money. I budget for my groceries like most people do every single month. And so I try to find ways to do things that are going to make plenty of meals. I try to make sure that I plan out a couple of my meals for the week. I'm not very good about planning out each and every day, but I know the ingredients that I'm gonna have on hand to make a variety of different meals. So I've written a list, and so I'm sorry I have to look away from the camera to read my list off to you. In no particular order. This is not an all-inclusive list, but I'm telling you, if you got these things on the list, you'll be set for your first week, 2 weeks, 3, whatever of keto. I'm also gonna write the list down below because I know I talk fast, and also it's gonna be kind of all over the place. So bear with me, but don't worry, it's gonna be down below. So I have butter. I recommend Kerrygold butter. There is no rule, just please make sure it is actual butter, no margarine. Margarine is a big, big no-no. So go ahead and cross that off your list. None of the, I can't believe it's not butter or butter alternative. It's gotta be butter. Cream cheese, I use for so many things. A lot of fat bombs I make with cream cheese. I make waffles with cream cheese, so many different things. So cream cheese to me is a non-negotiable. If you're not into cream cheese, that's okay. It just limits you a little bit more. I always have ground beef in my fridge. Ground beef is so versatile. So I know that in a given week, I might just be like, you know what? I have 3 pounds of ground beef in there. One day I might have hamburgers. Another day I might have taco salad without the taco, obviously. I might make myself zucchini spaghetti. I do that pretty often. It's a real go-to for me. So ground beef, very versatile. If you're not into beef, that's okay. We're just looking for good fatty cuts of meat. And so with the ground beef, you want to do 80% fat. I would say no less, or maybe no more. 90% would be kind of the cap. I wouldn't want to go much leaner than that because again, we want to get that fat in there. Steak is a really, really good one. Again, we're not all wealthy, so if steak's not something that you can afford to do, don't worry. You don't have to do that. It's just something that's you can throw in there. It's also very versatile. Just make sure you're getting a fattier cut of meat. I like to get pickles because pickles are really salty and they're a great source of electrolytes. Obviously, you want to get more salt. And again, I'm going to go into that in a whole other video, why you need your salt. Eggs, obviously, bacon. I say obviously, like you're like, okay, I don't know. Maybe you do know, maybe you don't. Eggs also make great breakfast. They're an ingredient for a ton of stuff. So I buy a lot of eggs and I also buy a lot of bacon. I've been keto for almost a full year and I have never gotten sick of eggs and bacon. Eventually, most people do. I just haven't reached my threshold yet. All right, sausage is one. And again, if you're not into any of these things, you don't have to get them. Like I said, these are just great to have on hand just to build your stock up. I like to have zucchini. I don't have a ton of vegetables in my diet, which you can go either way. Honestly, you'll hear schools of thought on both. Some people say, forget the vegetables altogether. Some people say, go ahead and go crazy on vegetables. I like to have a little variety. I have to remember that the vegetables have some amounts of carbs, and so I just have to factor that into my macros. No big deal. But I love using the zucchini I'll make a lasagna with it, like a zucchini lasagna. I'll make the zucchini spaghetti like I was telling you. So that one's one of the ones I almost always have. Again, not necessary. MCT oil. MCT oil is a medium chain triglyceride. You're going to hear a lot about it throughout your time on the ketogenic diet. And I put it in my bulletproof coffee. That's the only place I use it. But you can do keto without it. I don't think I could because I love coffee and I love the bulletproof coffee. So I make sure I have it in my cabinet. If you want to, great. I recommend it. It's sitting over there by my coffee right now. But again, if we're talking bare minimum, go ahead and skip that. Heavy cream also can go in your coffee. Makes a lot of good fat bomb recipes. Truffles I make with heavy whipping cream. Awesome. Cheese. Now here's a fun one. With cheese, I try to get stuff that's already pre-sliced. Now here's the thing, as I know that cheese pre-sliced is a little bit more expensive because obviously it's a convenience item. I know it can be the difference for me between opening my fridge, because I can be a snacker, a boredom snacker, whatever, opening the fridge and going, okay, there's a good snack for me because it's already sliced up, or seeing a full block of cheese and being like, I don't know, maybe I'll just go ahead and have 2 scoops of peanut butter. So up to you. If you're really good at planning ahead and making sure that all the prep work gets done, by all means buy the block of cheese. Otherwise, I like to go to Costco and get their big old tray of cheese. It's got 4 different cheeses in it. Bada bing, bada boom. I think I said that before. I don't even usually say that. That's really weird. All right, coconut oil, I would say is definitely a must-have. You can put that in your bulletproof coffee, but also almost every fat bomb recipe there is out there calls for coconut oil. I would say at least 95% of them call for coconut oil. So it's great to cook things in, but it's also great for the fat bombs and your bulletproof coffee. Dark chocolate, 80% cacao or higher. And this one I recommend especially for the first couple weeks when you're kind of weaning yourself off of sweets, you can have the 80% or higher cacao and get that sweetness and not hurt your diet. It's completely acceptable. Just make sure that you're reading the label, making sure it's actually 80% or higher cacao, and that it's not filled with a ton of added sugars or anything like that. Pork rinds, Pork rinds will give you that crunch that you need, especially when you're weaning yourself off of carbohydrates. But also if you grind them up, they make really, really good, like fried chicken. You can make like the coating for fried chicken. So many different applications of them. So highly recommend pork rinds if you're a snacky kind of person like I am. Sugar-free Jell-o. I don't even use this one that much anymore, but early on it was a lifesaver. And so I'd make a big old batch of sugar-free Jell-o, and then I would take some heavy whipping cream and actually whip it up, put some vanilla and a little bit of erythritol in it, and just have like a Jell-o parfait. And again, it gets you through past those sweet cravings. You get to feel like you're having a little bit of a treat, and it's not gonna hurt you. It's just fine. And again, that's one of those ones that the keto police will tell you is not keto, whatever. There's so many people who do. I've done it. A lot of people do it. It's just fine. Electrolytes. Now this is, if you took nothing else away from this video, and I know that this part has been kind of long, electrolytes are so important, especially early on. To avoid the keto flu, well, let's back up. I'm sure you've heard of the keto flu or the carb flu. And what that is it's caused by, especially early on, like I said, that first week, you are shedding a bunch of water. And so when you are shedding all that water that's been held captive in your muscles and so on, you are peeing out a bunch of your electrolytes, almost all of your electrolytes. This will lead you to flu-like symptoms. You will feel like you're nauseated, you will have headaches, you will have brain fog, all of that. This can be avoided by heavily supplementing your electrolytes. So electrolytes are potassium, magnesium, and why did I just forget the third one? Magnesium, potassium, sodium. Duh. So making sure that you're adding lots of salt to your food. And again, that's another one of those things that you're gonna have to just get past, because for years people have been telling us to keep our sodium low. You want to salt your food. Salt your food, eat your pickles because it's got the salt on it. And then if you can, find yourself a good electrolyte. And come right back to a couple of different electrolytes. So the first one that I tried was called the Vega Sport Hydrator. This one's relatively inexpensive. I know you can get it in a lot of places. I got it off of Amazon. And I will tell you, it does the job. I didn't love the flavor. It's kind of meh. It's almost empty, so obviously I used it. But this one's a good starter if you want to. However, in the keto community, you're gonna see a ton of people using Zip Fizz, and I am hooked on Zip Fizz. So this one you can get at Costco. Obviously you can see how much I love it because it's almost empty. But these are 3 different flavors at Costco, but on Amazon, I think they have like 20 something different flavors available. They cost about $1.05 a piece. So for each tube, it's about $1.05. However, they are also like an energy supplement. So it's got B12, it's got all sorts of stuff. I believe it has caffeine in it as well. So if you're somebody who drinks energy drinks pretty regularly, those things are $2 and $3 a piece. So one of these is actually far cheaper, and it's gonna give you the electrolytes you need so you don't get those headaches, you don't feel nauseated or whatever. So get your electrolytes. Also, and speaking of avoiding the keto flu, if you do not eat enough fat and enough sodium and all those things along the way, you will feel so much worse than if you just did. So please follow my advice. I was very lucky. I only had the keto flu kind of for like one day, and it was just a really bad headache. It just felt like a terrible migraine. Otherwise, I didn't get any of the other symptoms of it and passed very quickly. But had I just taken my electrolytes and taken that seriously, I would have been fine. All right, last but not least, sour cream, mayonnaise, sliced meats from the deli. Now make sure the sliced meats you get from the deli are things that are like, they don't have any sugar added to them. So a lot of the processed meats that you get that are like the Oscar Mayer and stuff, they add a lot of sugar. So just check that. I just recommend going straight to the deli itself. And then here's another optional item, but I think it's very, very beneficial to have, is cacao butter. And I'd never heard of cacao butter before. Anyway, you can get it online. I'm sure Whole Foods probably has it as well. Not necessary, like I said, but I use it to make some of the best fat bombs in the world, super easy, and it's not that expensive at all. Okay, so bare minimum, I know I went off on a tangent because I'm crazy like that and it's late at night. Bare minimum, get yourself some fatty meats, get yourself some cheese, get yourself some sour cream, mayonnaise, whatever is gonna be nice and fatty and is going to keep you full. Early on, keeping yourself full and satiated is gonna be the key to getting you through this program, okay? So on the next video, I will be making sure to talk about the tier 2, the tier 3, and all that kind of stuff. And also I'm going to talk about my grocery haul and where I get all of this stuff from. I am sorry I sound like such a banana head. Like I said, it is very late, but I wanted to make sure I got this video and this content out to you guys as soon as possible so that either you can A, start today, or B, prepare yourself to start in the next week, the next 2 weeks, whatever, and have a really good understanding of what you're gonna need just to get started, okay? Please, like I said before, make sure you put your comments below. Ask me questions. Say, Steffi, you weren't very clear about this. Can you please expand on this particular food item or what I need to avoid the keto flu, whatever it is, guys. I promise you, I'm not one of those YouTubers who's like, oh, I'm too big for my britches. I'm not even close to being too big for my britches, guys. I'm still really new at this, but I promise I don't want you guys to feel alone. It sucks. It sucks not having a support system, and I want to be that support system for you. Ask any questions. It's not going to seem dumb, I promise, okay? Anyway, thank you so much for listening to my rantings. I hope this video was helpful for you. I'm sure I missed something, but I promise you guys, we have so many more videos to go through. Plus, if you join the Facebook group, I'm going to put a lot of this information in more of a succinct format for you, okay? Thanks again. I will see you all in the next video.